PM, Friday, March 8th, agenda finance meeting. We're right into it here. Number 2, Johnson Valley Fire District 10 budget issues.
Mr. Palmer, we'll let Katie do the finance report first, and then we'll go to those other things.
All right, good deal. Go ahead, Kate.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
That's good.
Okay, okay. Back away, is it too loud?
Just ignore him, he don't work here anymore.
Okay, you know Ryan's not sitting by you?
That's right.
Sit back there.
He needs to leave the building. He's not a
Or if he's gonna speak, he's fill out a call.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so I kind of did something a little different. We went ahead and made a little PowerPoint presentation, just kind of some key points instead of going through the entire finance report like we normally do. It's very time consuming. So first page are the goals for today. We're just going to review the total 2018 budget summaries, how we actually closed the year compared to what we had budgeted. We're going to review some of our top revenue and the trends over the last 3 years. We'll look at what our 2019 adopted budget deficit and surplus is going to look like. And then we'll review our January 2019 cash balance. So turn the page, please. 2018 budget surplus and deficit. The very first one is the general fund. And if you do not take into account all of these subsidies that we give out to the criminal court and road and bridge, we actually closed the year with a surplus for just operations only, which we are very proud of. And that is not counting that CWIP money that we got. So over the last 4 years, all the budget cuts that you guys been making and asking us to stretch our pennies, it has paid off because we are now operating within our Avalon tax. So if we can work on our criminal court fund and our road and bridge fund and get them operating within their revenues, then we will be in really good shape. The road and bridge I mentioned, they do have a deficit. It averages about 1.6 million. Now we do have a lot of capital purchases in that fund every year. We were always replacing equipment. If we would go a few years without replacing equipment, we could probably skim that deficit back a little bit. Okay. Courthouse and jail, we did have a deficit this year, 46,000, but that's inclusive of all the funds that we had to allocate to get the courthouse renovations under, while it was under construction. We had a lot of change orders that we paid for out of that fund. We didn't run through the CBG grant. That normally that fund does operate at a surplus, and you'll see next year that we are anticipating a $50,000 surplus in that fund. The health unit, it looks scary, but it's not. You guys y'all didn't levy a tax for that fund. So we did take a $280,000 deficit that year, but we didn't have any revenue. In a few years, if you want to levy the tax again after we eat through all of our surplus, then that's an option. Garbage, it's in really good shape. You banked $165,000 in 2018. Criminal court, again, is one of our issues. We're having to supplement it between $400,000 and $500,000 a year. I'm not really sure what we're going to do to tackle this problem. It is what it is. I think every parish has an issue with that fund. We're cutting back as much as we can, keep some of the operating expenditures down, but that's just something that we're going to have to work through. So if we want to just fast forward, that's all the funds that you're directly involved in managing. All the indirect funds, which are all the fire district funds, are on the next page. Cameron Fire all the way through Lowry Fire. Cameron Fire, we had a $31,000 deficit according to our budget, but for a cash basis, we actually didn't have to loan them any money this year. Venture Global was generous. They gave a $75,000 donation. So even though you guys had agreed to loan them money to get through the end of the year to be repaid after they got their tax in January, we did not have to do that. Creo Fire is going to remain an issue. They lost half their tax base with the bankruptcies in that district. They're going to lose about $50,000 a year. Right now they have a surplus established that'll fund them for the next 3 to 4 years, but that's something that we're really gonna have to pay close attention to and get a handle on that if we don't have any new revenue sources coming into that district. Everyone else is in pretty good shape with the exception of Johnson Bayou Fire. They're having some of the same funding issues that Prio Fire's having. And Cameron Fire did have their here today to talk to you about it, but we're gonna wait and let them come up and make their request at the end of the meeting if that's okay with everyone. The only probably major thing that stands out to you is, I swear it's not that scary, it's Hackberry Fire. They did lose $350,000 this year, but that was, they're building their new fire station. They have the surplus to donate that toward the fire station. They don't normally operate at that large of a deficit, so they're gonna be okay. We turn the page to the revenue, our top 3 revenue sources. For the general fund, our ad valorem taxes, our severance taxes, and our royalty funds. The ad valorem tax over the last 3 years, as you can see, 2016 is in blue, orange is 2017, and gray is in 2018. The severance and ad valorem tax is kind of stabilized. The royalty is a little all over the place. We did not get the $1 million that we were hoping we would get in 2018, but I am optimistic because our January check came in, the estimates, and this would be the first time we're gonna get $100,000 for 1 month since 2015. So I'm optimistic that things are going to be increasing when it comes to road royalty. Hopefully we can get back to that $4 million that we were getting 6 years ago. Do we have any questions so far before we move on to 2019? So 2019, the next page. The first column is what our cash balance is as of January 1, 2019. The yellow column is what the surplus or the deficit is according to the adopted budget. And then the last column is going to be the projected cash balance. So if we get everything that we anticipated revenue-wise and we expend everything that we had budgeted, this is what our cash balances would look like as of December 2019. That $3.5 million surplus deficit, well, the deficit for the general fund, that's inclusive of a $2 million capital project line item and your subsidies that for criminal court and for road and bridge. So if you spend all of that, you'll still have $8.3 million in the bank, assuming that we'll get all the revenue that we anticipated. If you want to go through all the funds, I can. If you guys want to just take a minute and ask any questions, we can do it that way. Yes, sir?
You stopping right here?
I can.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, you're telling me that our budget is looking great. If we suspend all of our budget right now today, we still got a projected end of it about $8 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said in our capital improvement project money, we haven't done no projects that was really big in the last 2 or 3 years.
No, sir.
Okay. Hey, guys, listen, I think there's $2 million sitting in that project, capital improvement project money, correct?
Yes, yes,
2
sir.
million?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guys, why don't we, I know it's an election year, but I'm not worried about that. We haven't done nothing in the last couple, 2, 3 years. As a jury in a whole, why don't we each look at our districts that we represent and everything, and try to find one road or something in your district, give an Emily, and let's do a little project here. Let's don't do a 50-mile road, let's just do something on a half-mile, or whatever that actually needs a look at, an overlay or whatever. Are y'all open for that suggestion? With the $2 million surplus we haven't done nothing. So let's get in there and let's get it done and see if we can move that forward. And that's where I'm at with that. I like to move that forward. If we can, we'll get Emily we each call Emily and give her what we're looking at, and then they come back with a shot for us and let us know the next meeting. Y'all good with that? Okay. Emily, that's what you're gonna be looking at. The jurors will call you. They'll let you know what roads they're looking at. And let's get it lined up. You know what I'm saying? And then it's either gonna be an overlay, and we'll do it in-house. We don't need no engineers. We don't need nothing. That's gonna save that money, and we'll get some kind of project done this year. please. Thank you.
You got a list of it already?
Yes, that's not with us doing it in-house.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay, kid, I'm done with you.
okay then.
Hmm?
You got one.
No, it depends on, well, when we get to the cost estimates for the roads, then we'll look at it.
You
Yeah,
have to have an
depends on the cost. Let's get the estimates, we can look at it.
What's that?
If we do a project, depends on the cost, that we might have to have an engineer.
Of what?
We might have to have an engineer depending on the cost of the road project.
Since when?
Since
If we do it in-house, no.
we have to bid it out.
I understand.
Yes, sir. But we can
Anytime we gotta get an
look at,
engineer,
let's get the list of
people are
roads.
not- You tell me Emily and Shane and all them are not capable of handling this kind of a project?
No, sir,
Huh?
no. We'll look at it, let's get the list of roads that we need and get those estimated costs, and then we'll do what we have to do to comply with.
Yeah,
The law.
between 8 of us, if it's a $1.2 million, I'm just gonna use that. You get an engineer, it'd be $2 million.
Yes, sir, but there's, I mean, well.
I mean, I'm
let's
just trying to
it.
look at it, that we don't need to do it, we're just gonna do some overlay or whatever we need to do.
Yeah, let's get the list.
Whatever. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so the last page, second last page is what our cash balances are as of January 2019. So as of right now, we have $13.9 million in our general fund, and you can follow down all the funds, that's their cash balance. That's essentially what they have to get through the rest of the year. They won't see any large revenue coming in any of the other funds until December or January 2020. So especially the fire districts, what they have is probably every time they spend anything, it's gonna come out of that balance.
When, is the, I guess it's good time now. When is that LNG stuff supposed to start?
The first payment, 2021, small payment, right, when we actually get the funds,
No. Cheniere,
2022.
the original Cheniere, the regasification facility becomes taxable this year for first money to be received next year. Not sure what that assessment will be and all those. And then Cameron LNG is the following year, the original regas facility. And there are certain ITE contracts that are gonna be expiring here in the next, coming up. The question is gonna be how much they actually are valued at and what those actual receipts will be. But,
The initial
it will start.
projections,
It'll start.
though,
First projections, first revenue come in from the original facility will be Cheniere for next year.
but significant amount is gonna be much further.
Oh, no, those are that's the liquefaction facilities, those are the expansion projects, and they're 2027.
Well, what was some of the estimates on this first round of money?
Well, I tell you what, when we get to Johnson Bay's request, we've got some information.
Okay. I was just, you always hear, well, we're gonna start getting money, and nobody had really told me when we would start getting money.
No, I mean, we've been talking about it, it's just hard to remember exactly what, but there's, it is starting, but the smaller levels, those original plants will become taxable here.
Okay.
Sure.
Sorry.
And that's okay, so the last page is just a few of our goals, I think we go through this at the beginning of every year. We wanted to implement the new Public Works billing procedure and pair that with our new payroll and accounts payable billing procedures. That's something we kind of been talking about as the Public Works Department does work for other entities. What's a fair amount to bill them to recoup all the fuel costs associated and insurance costs associated with the work they're doing. Same thing for the admin department. When we are doing payroll for all these entities, the jury's paying for all the postage, even to send out the checks and paying for the checks and all of the small material costs that come along with doing payroll. So we kind of put the brakes on the public works part when we talked about doing the payroll admin fee. And we're gonna go to all the different entities over the next few months and talk to them and get their feelings, meet with their boards, explain to them what's going on, and come back to you guys hopefully by the budget, first budget meeting in August with a proposal of what we worked out with all the districts. So that's something that we're gonna have for you by the end of this year. Are there any questions about the budget before we move on?
So overall, we're in pretty good shape with that.
Yes, sir. You should be very proud of yourself. You guys done a really good job of allowing the staff to cut back on. And we do have a few requests we do need to go over. The first was, I don't think we really discussed what was mentioned earlier in the agenda meeting, which was our administrator transition plan. How did you guys feel about that? Is that something you want to authorize the staff to do, which is first adjustments for department heads to take on responsibility and then create a new temporary classification system for this coastal affair director and see about hiring someone? Is that something we need to push forward?
Yeah. Yeah, y'all need to move that along. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you gonna present a plan?
For the transition plan?
Yeah.
I think we're just gonna go ahead and develop the job description, the classification plan that goes with it, identify someone who's interested in taking the job that's qualified, and we can come back to you guys next meeting for approval. Does that sound like the timeline, Ryan, that you had in mind? He doesn't work here anymore.
He's mad because he gotta fill out a card.
We need to do that today. If we want to put that person in place, we need to get authority to hire that person.
Yeah.
The rest can, if y'all need a plan for the rest of it, we can give y'all can act on that. Nate, but if we want to get that, y'all need to add that and give us authority to hire, to create this temporary position. Yes, sir.
Transaction.
I think the rest of it is what we probably want to do. We want to look at your plan on paper, see what's,
See how the duties are gonna be shared between the department heads?
Right.
So we have a clear understanding of who's doing what.
I think Ryan this morning explained this director of coastal activities, we'll have the job description based on what he said, and we get the authority to hire that position. That we can add on today. Y'all agree? And we'll give you the transition plan, the rest of it, for y'all's review and act on next month.
Are we gonna have a job description? By the, we're gonna post for a job, or are we gonna, go ahead and vote on having a position made without knowing exactly what the responsibility will be for that position? I mean, is there something that we have in place that we?
I mean, yeah, we can develop that. It's gonna be based on, the coastal, me going to meetings, because they need to get started.
Okay, I understand that you're gonna do that, but we're gonna vote on it today, that's all I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
We're just giving them the authority to move forward.
Okay, we're not actually advertising anything.
No. They're just.
we're going to do
Yeah, no, he was on advertising.
Oh, that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
We have authority to hire a position.
Yeah.
Our position. But we know we're
Authority to create a temporary classification and to hire someone.
Yeah, they're gonna develop that, right?
Yes.
Before you hire somebody,
Yes.
you're gonna develop.
Then it's gonna be next month.
He's getting a card. Give him a minute.
See, it makes him feel better. We actually do need him for something.
After getting harassed at lunch, I figured I'd come back one more time. No, that falls on me, Sonny. The description specifically, and I didn't want to complicate it, but is specifically covering the gap in what we as a staff determined we didn't have the capacity to handle. And that's out of office meetings, that's participating in the public meetings where you gotta turn in projects, monitoring that process. Right now, Mary and I do that as a team. She's going to be, working more closely with Daryl now. And so it's specifically about having a presence, a Cameron Parish representative at every coastal restoration and protection meeting throughout the state. That's full-time by itself, and that's and I can give you a real detailed job description, but Terrebonne Parish, Plaquemine Parish, Calcasieu Parish. So for instance, Lori Cormier, the lady that you'll see come by me every now and then when we're at a public meeting, that's her full-time job for Calcasieu. And it's a shame, and it was something I wish the money would have been here a long time ago, that we could have had a similar person. We probably could have accomplished even more, you know, honestly. But it was us trying to prioritize what was good here, but at the same time, get involved in these projects. So this will allow us to have that person ready to hit the ground running, honestly. And I just think very simply, it's going to be a Cameron Parish person at every single public event, that you cannot undervalue what that means to have someone speaking for you at those.
It might be more like.
At those meetings.
You advertise, if you put out certain requirements that need to be met before you come and apply for this job, we may limit, we may not get 600 applications, we might get 4 or 5, and that's all I was saying.
And I think, no, you're right, and I think in the past, even when we've advertised and had a very concise job description with minimal requirements, we still sometimes didn't even have people, you know, apply, and then you re-advertise, and then, you know, then you're extending it 4 months. And so I think that, you know, there are individuals out there who are very well suited for this type of work, and I think they would be, you know, they would be a great benefit to the jury to have, especially during the transition. And I know, you know, I didn't really elaborate on it a lot earlier, but the department heads and I have sat down, and maybe I need to send y'all what we had discussed. I didn't want to bog y'all down with specific items, but we had ideas as department heads on things like who's going to speak to the press, who's going to handle something from the general public. But everyone's still handling their own people, their own issue. If there's a road issue, they're going to have to call Emily. Now, if it's a road funding issue, well, then they're going to have to call Katie too. I mean, I don't see a lot changing outside of, you know, having a central point of contact for the general public with that initial complaint that has to be divvied up amongst the staff. I don't envision it being some, you know, convoluted process. I really don't. Because these guys, their challenge is going to be to sit at the table, them 5, and say, okay, here's our issue, what are we going to do? And they need to come to you with a consensus from them. You know, you don't need to be worried about, okay, do I need to give some advice on this, If they can come to you with a recommendation, which is what we've done, you know.
So if I understand right, each department will not report to a single point, it will report to the jury.
That is for your, that is for the jury to decide, in my opinion, you know, for the time being. I think that individual department heads contacting jurors on particular issues could get hairy. I think if they stick together as a group, like I believe they will, and there's an issue that cannot be resolved in this building, then it should be brought to the jury's attention. We were not able to come to a consensus on this issue. But it's no different if you have a permitting or drainage problem that Kara has the permit, your constituents are going to call you and say, hey, what are they doing out there? Still going to have to call Miles and Kara and say, okay, you got the date on the permit? Because there's no reason to call Daryl because he don't know, just like I didn't know, you know. Call the people that are handling it for you. And I think that, you know, that's my opinion on that.
But, I mean, let me just add, this, we're talking about a position here outside, that we can come up with that in a transition plan for how department heads handle their responsibilities. This director of coastal activities that was Ryan was talking about this morning, we have ongoing projects, the Mesa project that's about to be permitted, that they've done a lot of work on. They've got the shoreline protection project that's getting started. We need this position in place, along with the legislature's about to get started, whatever comes from that. We need to get that position in place quickly.
We have your commitment to bring them up to speed, no matter who we are.
That's a full commitment, and the individuals who have worked with us on the coastal committee, they're gonna be, that's something that we haven't done as well here lately, getting them engaged again. This person should absolutely reach out to them first, and I will be here every step of the way to make sure that that person is set up to hit the ground running. I don't think there's gonna be any issues. Yeah. The only other thing that I didn't really bring up earlier, you know, the department heads, if you want specifics on who can do what, that's fine. But, you know, at the end of the day, these guys are gonna, you know, they need to hit the ground running also as department heads. And I think for some of them, it's been a while since they've had an adjustment. They're not on pay scales like anybody else. I think your phones may not be ringing. I know my phone wasn't ringing with complaints about the staff. It may be a good time, if we're not filling my position, to help those guys and gals out a little bit, give them a little something to encourage them to say, hey, we appreciate the work you've done. Keep us going. Don't let it, you know, don't let it falter. So.
Yeah, I think that's very good.
And I think we ought to have, I feel like we ought to leave it up to the staff on the consensus of them determining where this person should, the money they're making, or whatever. I mean.
We have a recommendation.
The staff needs to make a recommendation. That's right.
I have a recommendation for
Mhm.
us. Y'all have the classification
Right.
breakdowns, y'all know what, make a recommendation back to us. We don't wanna.
Correct. And I envision.
But we don't
yeah.
want, but we also don't want something to get us all blowed out of shape,
Right,
you know.
right. Yes.
So won't we just let them hire somebody and, or go out to apply and hire somebody and come back next month with a recommendation on what we're gonna pay us? Tell them they're not getting paid till next month. We're gonna hire you.
We gotta move it to the board meeting. It's gotta be moved to give them an authority to do what they have.
Advertise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What about the department head? What we gonna do with their?
The department heads are not on the classification policy like the staff is. And I think for some of them, it's been probably 3 years since they've had an adjustment. I think that now that you're saving my large, humongous salary, it may be a good show of support to those gentlemen and ladies.
So you have 5 department heads, and they got $5
Come back to us in a month with a recommendation.
I think $100 a person would probably be sufficient.
Let Daryl come back with a recommendation.
Yeah.
Or Katie.
With the department head?
I can black out another road with your salary.
That's
Without
a short,
Without an
that's a short
engineer.
road.
Sorry.
Come back with some recommendation on the department head?
Everybody knows they look on page
Quick
8.
question.
Daryl?
Quick question. Is that
We get something together and have it for, because this is short notice, so let's get something together and do it next month.
Open forum, or y'all, can we do it in the second year?
For classification.
Discussion of the pay raises and what have you.
Listen,
We do that in the agenda meeting, or you want to do it in a special?
no, you can do that, we can do another finance meeting. She can call anytime she wants a finance
You want to
meeting.
do that, and I'm going to have to discuss this instead of doing it in an open forum.
Sure.
A lot of people don't want to go.
No,
Sure.
Well, I mean, this is open here anyhow, but I mean, it's still a finance meeting.
It's fine. However you want to do it.
That's good, just come back with something, and that way we can give them something, you know.
Okay, like some options.
Yeah.
Not him to discuss it.
No, not
Yeah.
that, no.
Yeah, they're gonna prove that to vote me, to go out for advertising the hiring somebody.
Y'all understand the separate.
So you want
We're
another
good.
finance meeting next
We're good with
month?
that.
Okay, good deal.
Whatever you good with.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the Johnson Bayou Fire
wait.
District.
One
We
more.
got a couple things from this morning, let's get
Okay,
through
wait,
it real
wait.
quick. Are you gonna go through?
Just the DA, Renee Dupree from the DA's office sent in a quote, request for 2 new laptops to be purchased for the DA's office. The quote came in at, just under $2,000. They said that their computers are outdated, broke, pieces missing. I guess according to her audit report, she does have a cash surplus. They asked us to purchase, I told them I would make the request on their behalf. If you guys choose not to fund it, then I guess she would.
Do they take these laptops out of the office or they sit on desk?
One is taken out of the office, I believe it was Shelley Granger, she does come to court, and she uses her laptop back and forth, I think that's the one where the pieces are missing and it's falling apart. The other one's just gonna be a laptop that stays on the computer with a workstation and a screen.
Do we have any extras here?
And
Ryan's,
some older ones,
I
some,
think.
we got Ryan's.
Squabble over that a little bit, I mean, that's, we pick on Laura somewhere else, but, yeah, I don't see no problem. Yeah.
Hey, y'all go with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're good.
okay.
Okay.
That was the only request that I had received directly. Do you have something, Daryl?
Yeah, from this morning, Registrar Voter Assistant Supplemental.
Where's the deputy, where's the lady that runs that?
She
She sent a
is
request. I
in
mean,
Grand Lake putting, the lines in for the voting for March to where they can have it at the library now.
Wait, are you talking about Kristen?
Yes, this for this request.
That- no,
is
Michelle's-
$1,500. Supplemental pay of $1,500 is her request.
She got, all the license and all the,
I thought it was
that
12.
she needs to move into that woman's place if she leaves. Register for them, she got it all good.
It was 12.
I'm gonna move it, put it on the agenda.
All right.
Okay.
Move on.
Susan was talking about this morning, but when we had the courthouse discussion, what we have left to get for the courthouse, the old shelving may not work they need a new track system. So the new shelving, I have an estimate of $73,000. That's for shelving, for the clerk of court. What it will be, it may be less than that. That's the max. You know, that was what she was talking about this morning.
73,000.
Yes, today, and I'll just tell you, this is out of courthouse and jail. If we would do that at the max, with the additional items we need to furnish their offices, finish the project, we would have spent $155,000 in change orders, and we'd have spent an additional $180,000 to furnish everything, the courtroom, the judge's office, and the clerk's office with shelving. So it'd be additional $330,000 in addition to the CBG contract to do the courthouse, which was $6 million something. So, do y'all want me to finish it and get that? That's what she was talking about.
Is there enough money?
Yeah, it's out of courthouse and
Is
jail.
there enough money?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We're at
What they gonna come back with
1.9 million in courthouse and
Well,
jail.
what they gonna come back with again?
This is it, I told them to give me your
They
last
said that was
list.
it last time. We'll go
No,
again.
this was it. I mean, this is to finish the courthouse project. I mean, if they come back with anything, they have to come and ask y'all, you know.
You good with that?
You good?
You good with that?
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna do this again next month.
Next month we'll do the same.
We'll do it this month.
We're trying to finish this.
Next month will be different.
Okay?
Don't say it again, Daryl.
Hey, look, I'm
Is that okay? Anything else?
I think that's it besides Johnson Bayou Fire.
by fire.
All right, go to Johnson Bayou Fire.
Where you going, Glenn?
Oh, man, mine's fun.
Yeah, we do, I want to hear what you gotta say.
Well, I don't know.
That big old tall guy right next to you probably can tell it in about 3 minutes.
Good
I'm just
afternoon,
kidding.
ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon, police jury. My name is Glenn Trey, and I represent Fire District 10, which is the Johnson Bay, Holly Beach area. And come to y'all today because our budget, we have fell short the 2019 budget year about 600,000 more or less. And to borrow 610,000 from this police jury. That is my request.
That the borrower will be paid back?
That is correct. Yes, that is.
About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from the Chief Newsett, who told me they were gonna run out of money, probably around the 1st of June. And he asked me, what could we do? And I thought, well, a bank loan perhaps. But when I started looking at the numbers that Katie and Daryl had sent over to me, I saw that there's no way you can go to a bank with something like this. And the reason for that is because what we don't know is what the Chenier import facility is going to come on the tax rolls for. It will come on the tax rolls at the end of this year. I think sometime in April, you will have a number that Chenier will present to the tax assessor essentially for purposes of determination of what the actual ad valorem tax will be at the end of this year. We'll start working with that number. Now, we don't know what that number is going to be, but we have projected that the number should be enough to be able to repay this obligation to the police jury within 4 years. Hopefully shorter than that, but that's what we're talking about. Now, on February 20th, I went over to the fire department's meeting, and we adopted a resolution allowing us to come to the police jury and ask for this particular loan. If you guys approve it today, I hope to have this on the bond commission's agenda for next month in time to be able to fund this loan, and I'll prepare, all the documentation to fund the loan to allow them to continue their operation starting in June with this additional money. Hopefully what will happen is there'll be enough money coming from the Chenier import facility to take them over this hump and essentially give them enough money to repay the obligation and continue their operations. Now, if you have some questions, Daryl would have the numbers that he's presented to both myself and to the district, and he can answer any questions specifically about the numbers. What I will have to do is I'll have to take Daryl's numbers from Daryl, and I'll have to submit those to the bond commission, because the bond commission is gonna, crawl up this thing sideways and backwards, and we will be able to answer those questions with Daryl's numbers. So I'd suggest that we talk to Daryl at this point.
The numbers that he's referring to, we will be required to submit a financial report of the financial condition. That would come from Katie. I have contacted the assessor's office about the estimated increase from the Chenier, the Chenier facility that will become taxable this year. They submitted an estimate for 2019 for that fire district, would like $593,000 based on the projected estimated assessment for that facility. Then the next year, another IT contract comes on and it becomes $1 million. So for that fire district, if that holds true, then they will have money to be able to do this and accomplish this, and then pay it back. So these estimates are what I will submit to Jay for him to include with the state bond commission application.
Okay, that's if the bond commission accepts it, is that right, Jay?
They have to approve.
The bond commission staff has become particularly difficult in recent months, but having said that much, this is a component unit of the jury. We're asking that the jury would lend this money to the district on a no interest cost basis, such that essentially they'll pay it back within the 4-year period, but at no interest cost to the district. This is your district, essentially, okay? So that's what the proposal is. That will help out the bond commission's analysis, because the bond commission pores over these issues with respect to tax exempt income and things like that. They become very difficult when we start talking about that. A straight loan from the jury to the district should not be as difficult as they have been in the past, hopefully.
those numbers that you got that are from tax assessment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they ought to be sufficient
Yes, sir, I'm hoping.
To submit an application.
to submit application, they should be sufficient. It's not that we came up with, we got from the tax assessment.
Yes, sir.
Sonny, I don't want to I don't want to take anything away from this conversation, but understand that some of those analysts at the bond commission, God bless them, but I don't think they understand what they're doing half the time. And we have to retrain some of them from time to time, because they get new analysts, because these kids come straight out of college and have all these questions, and we are constantly going over and over and over again with these folks and trying to train them on how they do their job. And I get pretty frustrated by it, and it's just, and it's not only me, it's all the other bond lawyers in the state who have to deal with the bond commission. It's a frustrating process.
You saying 4 years?
Yes, 4 years. That would be the maximum term, Darryl. It may be shorter. They may be able to pay it back faster than 4 years, depending upon what their ad valorem revenues are.
But this won't generate year after year.
Mr. Park, I think,
Just one time.
honestly, Mr. Park, I think what we're looking at is to get to 2021. By then, they'll have 2 IT contracts that are gonna come off, and they should be there at that point.
No, but to be very clear, this is a one-time borrowing, $610,000. It's not a year after year after year deal.
Okay.
To be paid for in 4 years or in installments?
It can be paid in 2 years.
I'm asking, you pay it one time?
No, it's a
one
max.
payment in 4 years or one payment for 4 years?
I think the 4 years gives us some flexibility to make sure that they, they can operate next year. I mean, and it won't be as hard, and then, but I don't think we'll have to go 4 years,
Just so we're clear, we get the money back in 4 years.
That's right.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When I came to this board, Cameron fired for $90,000. They had all kind of recommendations. Fire everybody, go volunteer, then come back to us. And they told us to go to the bank. Now, and that's only $90,000. That's, you're gonna treat people fair, treat them fair.
Could we have, Ronnie, would you mind speaking just a moment? Explain to them what the fire rating is, how to get it, how hard it is to keep, and once you lose it, how hard it is to get back.
You know, I've been kid for 10 years.
I'm Ronnie Doucette, I'm resident of Cameron Parish, Johnson Bayou area. As you know, I'm a district chief in Sulphur. That's what I do for a living. I'm also a part-time chief in Johnson Bayou. I've been an employee for about 6 years. They came to me and asked me to take over, I'd be interested in taking over the fire district in our area. At the time, we were a 6. We're coming back up our rating at that time. Our problem is in Johnson Bayou, as most of Cameron, a lot of lower Cameron Parish, we have a shortage of population. And on top of that, we have even more of a shortage of people that are trained, have the time and want to meet the minimum requirements to be a firefighter, to do the job. The board, we looked at that time, we looked at the numbers of what it would cost to go for a professional fire department. We pulled those numbers together. We found out that we had to have 4 people on duty to show up to a fire, 4 trained. And with that being said, if we were strictly volunteer, it takes 3 volunteers to make full-time. So we had to have 12 volunteerships, and that had to be trained volunteers. Well, that wasn't going to happen. The board took it upon advisement. We had the money in the bank, went to full-time department. It was a 6. The year after I took over and we became full-time, we got rated. We moved from a 6 to a 4. We moved up so much that the insurance, PIL, Property Insurance Association of Louisiana, came back and used their right to come back and re-rate us. That's never for the best, and we're hoping that we fall. At that time, we went from a 4 to a 3. And we only have 12 people work for us full-time, the secretary, myself part-time. That is the same fire rating as the city of Vinton, the city of Westlake, Carlos, all these large municipalities have. I think we've been very fortunate to get that. Luck was on our side as much as anything. But at that time, we came to the board. I knew from the very beginning we were going to have a shortfall. And we came to the board and we addressed that, we asked that. And it, the millage went up and down, and we knew this was coming, it kept coming, and finally, the chickens came home to roost. And if we're gonna have a fire department, a paid fire department, and y'all know this, that if we're going to meet any of the standards set forth by the insurance company, we have to meet the four. And I heard, Mr. Fork say back there that, Grand Lake needs $1 million for the fire department. No, sir, they need $2 million, because they need to have, if anybody in the parish is going to go full-time and try to get off of a 10, as Cameron is, Hackberry is, Mr. Hicks knows this right now, they're in the middle of getting rated. The first person to be rated under the new schedule. There were 6 prior. By speaking with people who work for the department, they're hoping to keep an 8. And from what, I'm going to explain to you the 2 things I know. I was on the recreation district, and I'm privy to the numbers of the fire district. On our 2 facilities, on our 2 buildings that the fire district owns, we save $10,000 right at a year on insurance premiums. And we don't have to pay to the insurance company. The recreation district, on the community center and recreation center, saved about 13. That was when we were 4. I don't know what they're doing with the 3. I didn't know the boards that were doing 3. Also, the districts, I'm going to use Target for example. I'm familiar with it. Target is self-insured, but each facility throughout the country pays in a different slice of the pie. And what that number corresponds to is the rating of their first responding fire department, which is us. So when we went from a 6 to a 3, how much target was actually given into that pie was cut in half. And they've been more than happy about that. They feel like their numbers, that they're justified. On my home, my insurance for the fire department is about $35. But we say I save $300 on my homeowner's insurance. Glenn lives in the district, I'm sure you can tell, I can't speak for him, I'm just telling you for me personally. And if y'all need to know these numbers, I can present all these numbers to you. But I tried to do the job that's hired for me, and it does cost. This was not a surprise on our end, but it did. We had hoped that some things would happen with some other programs that didn't come through, and it's where we're at. There was never any ill intent or I guess you'd say mismanagement on us. It was always, we tried to cut all our money back. I think that Darryl will be able to speak for that. We tried hard to pull our money back to just put salaries against us, salaries and benefits. Myself, I don't have a benefit package at all, but the other employees do.
I just want to say that they've done a wonderful job. They've got our insurance down, not only for the local constituents, but for the jury itself and for the buildings that we have in that area. Once you have a rating, you want to keep it, you don't want to lose it. So we keep our rating. It's a one-time thing, so I think we should judge it on its own merit. I can't speak for what's happened in the past. I can only speak for what's going on today. I think it's a good idea. I think we should do this. And we are the supporting group for all the entities that we have here. So we have to take a little bit of physical responsibility from time to time.
What was our policy how we handled Cameron?
We had some different
I'm
options.
hearing all the argument. I'm talking about at the end.
Yeah, we had some different options, but we ended up, they voted to run an election for a new tax, and we were gonna fund them, I think it was $47,000, I don't have it in front of me, but we were gonna fund them through the end of the year. Borrow the money, lend them the money. But they got money from venture that alleviated that part of it. But we voted to do that.
I just always like to be consistent on what we do, especially when it's so much in the same, it's so much in the same situation. You're talking about a fire department and they ain't got the funds. And you're talking about a fire department and they ain't got the funds.
And I think
talking 2 different things here. You're talking about Cameron firemen that their rating was 10. So helping them wasn't gonna help them with just 2 firemen. Johnson Bayou's rating's over here is 3. By helping them, their rating's gonna stay the same. I mean, no matter what we've done for Cameron, we wouldn't change it because it's a two farm. They done hire 4 or 5 more firemen to get to where they need to be.
No, and honestly, and you're correct, Ms.
No, I
Joe.
understand that, I understand that, I just say that, me personally, I like to be consistent. If we're gonna do for one, we need to do for all. And I understand your argument, what you're saying, that it's gonna hurt if we don't fund them and they lose fire protection, that community's gonna suffer for it. And I understand that. But I also understand that Cameron Fire had to lay off their personnel and go to a volunteer system.
And
I'm not saying that they compare to each other, I'm just saying that's the fact. And that when the public looks at that, that's what they
We need
see.
to educate the public and tell
We
them.
may
what's
need
done.
to, you're right.
I mean, you can't, sometimes you just can't compare apples to apples. You gotta do what's best for whatever community that you're
I
working in.
understand that, but still, you gotta explain to the public what's going on.
Just
Mr. Falk, can I-
we have to do that.
Can I interject something on that, Lee? A fire rating is of a 10, is which they were.
Still.
If you look at the scale, the verbiage is that is the same as not having fire protection. That's what the verbiage is for a 10. So when you're looking at, if you want to compare it to that, you can basically say we were paying X amount of dollars for zero fire protection, or we're paying this amount of money for fire protection of 3. And that's the way they look at it. It's fire 10s, no fire protection.
Everybody wants fire protection.
Yes, sir.
Everybody wants the best fire protection
Yes, sir.
that they can get.
Yes, sir.
And everybody's gotta live within their means.
Yes, sir.
Now, I don't know how to say it any other different.
Mr.
I got all kind of people in my district up there would like to have a rating of 3, but I bet you they don't.
No, we got a 6.
We got a 6 because we got a volunteer system, and we got 15 times the people.
Mr. Falk, whenever,
I just call them like I see them, brother.
I know you're saying we're not living inside our means.
What,
That's, we've been here 4 times.
Katie, on this one, you're showing is January cash balance of $481,000.
Yes, sir.
On this slide, it's showing beginning cash 1/1/19 of a deficit of $82,000.
Mhm.
Where are we at here?
When you're looking at the budget versus the cash, what happens is, the end of December, we bank their revenue because it has been earned, even though we maybe haven't received the check and deposited it yet. So they close the year on, when you're looking at the budget and everything, they might not actually have the cash in hand, but they knew that it was coming. So you kind of, it's really just an accounting and timing issue. You can't really compare your budget to your cash balance. They did get about $600,000, like January 5th. So that was deposited, so it covered anything that might have looked like it was a deficit at the end of the year. So right now, what they have of January is $481,000. Well, we just received February's Avalon tax payments. They're probably got another $40,000 or $50,000 to go into that cash balance. So it's just a timing issue. They didn't really close the year with the deficit, but if you looked at it on a cash basis, they did. But
And not, Eric, I did this a couple of months ago when I went to the school board and I got with Katie. It's just a timing difference. This, what you're seeing there was something I did. The end result, the ending cash is the same. We both worked that out to get to, we knew that they were gonna be short that much.
I'm looking here at the salaries over 16, 17, 18. We jumped from 760,000 to 912,000 in 19. That's a big difference.
We went from 3 people on shift to 4 people on shift. When the new rating schedule comes out, we required that.
Wow. We was at a 3 with the, before you hired the extra ones?
No, sir, before whenever they did, we actually hired them in mid-year, a month or so before we came to get rated. We tried to hold off the last minute.
So basically, your employees cost you about $100,000 a year.
No, our employees got 1 point, yes, sir.
That's inclusive of, all the benefits and retirement.
And do y'all pay 100% of their benefits, their insurances?
No, sir, they, by law, for the firefighters themselves, we have to, that's not a choice. But the family, no, sir, they contribute to the family.
They're the same
The
as
same
us,
as
95.5,
Okay.
but their retirement rate is over 26% versus what our retirement is 11.5%.
And, I mean, one other question is hiring the extra personnel, just brought you down 1 point?
No, sir, it all goes into a formula of how many people respond to the last, or the number of structure fires in that calendar year or that rating year. We hadn't had an actual structure fire in 2 years prior to the rating, so the fire that we actually had enough people living in Johnson Bayou. I had 2 of my full-time firefighters at that time that were living in Johnson Bayou. With the ones that are on duty, the 3 that were on duty showed up. We had 2 full-timers that were living there, they showed up. That exceeded the requirement, plus we had a bunch of other volunteers. Even though they weren't certified or trained, they were bodies. So we actually hit perfect on that. So when they changed it, they couldn't go back to the year before to say, what structure fire did you have? We didn't have it. So I went back to the year before. Well, now, if it hits, and we only have 3 people on duty, and we're in the same boat Cameron is. I mean, you know, that's one of the things that they hit Cameron on was not enough personnel, and that dropped them. They lost all their personnel to them.
Monty, can you think of how much time it takes in education to be a volunteer, what it takes now by state law?
Yes, sir.
It takes a while, that's all we have is volunteers.
Yes, sir. And you know this, then. They hold the volunteers, the insurance companies are not our friend. They're in here to make money, especially Louisiana. They require us in Johnson Bayou or Hackberry, that's all volunteer, Creole, whatever, they require them to have the same training as New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport. There's not a volunteer standard and a professional standard. There's a state standard. And they require each person to have 12 hours a month of training, whether there's volunteer or professional. They also have, you have to have LSU certifications that are recognized, IFSAC certifications. And now they've even pushed it even further over the last few years. If you've got an officer, you get additional points for an officer. If that officer does not have certifications, 2 additional certifications per rank, then you only get a quarter of the points on them. So it's not made for the firefighters. It's not. It's a pretty big job to stay up on, go to classes on this and try to figure out what the cheapest way to beat them is.
How many volunteers did you say y'all had?
We've got about 6. None of them meet the training criteria. So they're almost don't
But they're training.
Yes, sir. They don't have the certificate. They don't have the firefighter 1. They've got Louisiana 1403. And again, they only count for 1/3 of full-time firefighters.
I was just wondering because I'm looking here, just in salaries, 140,000, 152,000, and in insurance, $93,000 a year. So you're looking at $240,000 a year extra, and you're saving how much on the insurance a year?
Well, to see if we would have gotten caught with not having enough personnel, we would have done like Cameron did, drop down below the threshold. So then we went from our insurance that dropped $10,000 would have probably doubled.
I mean, we're 100% volunteer, and our rating's at a 6.
But when nobody's been rated on the new rating. Hackberry's, they're enjoying it now. We're preparing for the new rating. It changes every 5 years. We fell the last year under when they come back and re-rate us. And I pray that everybody gets a 6 or above. I do. I just know that Tim's working very hard to make sure everything works on it.
We got about 6 districts getting re-rated this year.
Yeah.
It's a different criteria.
Grand Lake's getting re-rated this year.
Every
Well,
time
I
you,
mean, that's the whole thing, is what's gonna boil down to is, we keep handing out money, and I know, shortfall, deficit. The first thing we're gonna fund here is everybody knows what these full-time firemen are making. Guess what the volunteers gonna do? they're gonna disappear. When you start paying me, hire me,
That's what we
bid not
were,
go effect.
that's what we were prior to hiring people in Johnson Wade.
And then the whole parish would be in a $10 million deficit over firemen, and we gotta have it.
The bad part is, I told you, well, I needed money. Let me explain to you why, and this will be quick. 40 mil tax is what we had to run, Darryl, to get the money right to get a volunteer.
Yes,
Something
sir.
like
I
that.
mean, we were figuring about $1.5 million and.
For us up there, we have no industry. All the industry is down here. We have residential. You imagine what kind of burden that puts on the people up there?
Oh, yes, sir, I totally understand, I'm not,
You know, I'm just,
yeah,
that's
I'm
why I
not
was
that I
telling
don't
you.
understand.
It's kind of hard every time we turn around, we give him money, give him money, give him money. We don't ever give nothing to us up there. And it's hard to, it's just getting hard to swallow.
And just in defense of, I mean, this is a timing issue,
Yeah,
they're
it's all time.
borrowing the money, they're just
Yeah, they're
basically
borrowing.
borrowing it from themselves, you know, until they get to where they don't have to do it anymore.
Well, that's just what Jay just said. If we give them the money, and the bond commissioner says no, then they don't get the money.
No, sir, then we have.
That's correct, huh, Jay?
That is correct.
That's correct. So then y'all have to take another action.
Then we won't have a farm.
Then it's,
Right.
If the bond commission does not approve the loan, we're back here in front of you to say, let's drop back and think of something else. The fact is, it's a felony and it's a nullity for us to do a loan without bond commission approval.
Darryl,
yes, sir.
the numbers you got from, Parson,
Yes, sir.
have they ever been right? No, you don't know what he's doing.
Y'all can answer that.
You got to say it, I mean, you don't know.
That's all we have to base this on right now. That's what Jay's gonna go to the bond commission with y'all's approval.
Is this on the vote?
It is true. No, it has to be added. We didn't just add this. Y'all had to go through it and y'all have to make that decision.
Y'all wanna move it forward?
The part is the resolution to go to submit to the state bond.
It's the resolution.
Yes, sir. And I would say pending that outcome to give them authority to do this, where we don't have to come back to you again.
Okay. Any more questions?
So we're gonna give him 600,000,
Say again?
we're gonna give him 600 something
We're
thousand.
gonna lend them.
It's a resolution.
It's a bond, it ain't a,
Bond, and we gotta vote on it.
Okay.
So, any more questions? Anybody got any questions? Yeah, Katie, y'all good? Everybody good?
Yeah, we need, it's 2:04, but we need a few minutes to add these. If y'all can, just take a break and we'll come back and read.
All right, meeting adjourned.